review of the 2019 agreed upon procedures from Bergen KDV. So Mr. Wishman, I believe it is.
Yep, correct. Fantastic. Well, thank you all for this special meeting. I appreciate it. My goal tonight is a couple things. Number one, I want to walk through the agreed upon procedures report. I want to also talk a little bit about how it ties into our audit that we did and the coordination we did with that. Like to just comment on the procedures we did, some of the potential open items or discussion points as well, and then we can take it from there if there's other things you'd like us to follow up on. So again, we're certainly willing to continue following up with any questions you may have that have not been addressed with this agreed upon procedures report. So any questions, feel free to just jump in at any time. So again, real quick before we get started on the report itself, so the agreed upon procedures is really a specific look at some requested transactions and processes. And so it is fairly limited in scope. It is not an audit per se where we're validating the financial activity for a period of time. It's more of a focused look at some certain transactions, some of the of interest and or the processes surrounding that. So, but obviously we did take this work as well, and to make sure that we kind of did a double duty, if you want to say, and doubled up on a lot of the receipts and disbursements. So we're looking at specific things as well in this agreed upon procedures report as well as the actual audit. So we kind of did probably double the work that we normally would do, not quite. So I think it'll give you a good synopsis of kind of where things stand. So if it's okay with the board, I just would like to walk through the procedures and the findings. And when I say findings, it's just the conclusion. It's not like a finding is a bad thing. It's just the conclusions that we reached as we did our work. So procedure number one talks about verifying and confirming the cash balances with the township at Bremer Bank. The reason we did that is to make sure that indeed what you think is in the bank is actually in the bank, and number two kind of looks at the reconciliation of that. So through confirmations.com, which is our standard way of confirming the balances, we were able to confirm those bank balances as of December 31st, 2019. And we also did review and confirm those as of September 30th as well. I'm going to add that to step number one here as well. Just going to make a couple notes as I go along. So those all agreed into the reported amounts of the bank balances. So there were no discrepancies there. This does tie in pretty directly to number two, which then says, okay, we have a bank balance that's listed at the bank, but obviously there are transactions that don't clear till after a period end, whether it be the month or the year. So every month, the township does a bank reconciliation to tie the CTAS amounts to the bank balances. The January through July reconciliations were substantially reconciled. The months of August, when I say substantially reconciled, they agreed to the reports. Due to the departure timing in September, the August reconciliation was not completed until later on in the year, as well as September, October, November, and December. There indeed was, for that 4 or 5 month period of time, reconciliation. I'm not going to say issues, I'm going to say just a transactional process to really validate all the receipts and the disbursements that went through the bank accounts in August and September and October and November and December. It was indeed reconciled at the end of December 31st, 2019, with just a small difference of $30.51. Since talking with Doug also the last couple weeks, it appears that the bank statements now do reconcile with just a small variance and a consistently small variance from month to month in 2020. The reason that the bank statements obviously were not done on a timely basis in that August, September, October, November was just due to the vacancy in your clerk position. So the short answer is this: no irregularities or unusual reconciling items in those particular bank accounts or bank reconciliations. Just more of a catch-up phase, if you want to say, because of the timing where there was no one in the clerk's seat during that period of time. So the good news, money is indeed accounted for. It is now reconciled, and obviously with our audited financial statements that we prepared, those numbers again have been audited and reconciled to your CTAS system. I know from the auditor's perspective, going to kind of bounce back a little bit as we talk through this, but there were a couple of small reclassifications that we made between general and road and bridge, and that will be something that Doug was working on getting transferred over, if you want to say. In total, it's the same amount, but a little more in one and a little less in the other. I know you reached out to CTAS to help get that all reconciled. So again, that'll be trued up. The beginning balances for 2020 will match the December 31st, 2019 cash basis audit. And through these procedures and our audit procedures, we're comfortable that all the transactions and the reconciliations are accurate. So I think that's good news. Item number 3 talks about looking at selected receipts for the accounting records from January 1st through September 9th. This was really to make sure that things were properly coded and recorded in your bank accounts. We reviewed a selection of receipts of approximately 8, and actually I'm going to say we've looked at more than that because we also selected a sample from September 9th through December 31st for our audit. So we looked at 20 to 25 total receipts. But the major ones we did were the property taxes. Obviously, a majority of your receipts come through the property tax system. So we looked at all of those receipts. We also looked at your gas tax receipt. We looked at escrow payments, some plowing receipts, reimbursements, some license and permits, and some fees. So we did a nice cross sample of all particular receipt codes, if you want to say. And we made sure that was incorporated in our random selection. So that was part of the agreed upon procedures, was looking at some of those large ones and the random ones. Our audit then piggybacked and said, okay, anything that is significant in the statements, we will verify on a sample basis too. So those license and permits and charges for services were also tested. So our goal was this: are they coded in the right amounts? Are they in the right funds? And were they identified in the CTAS system in the proper accounts? And again, they did agree to the deposit amounts, and we believe they're properly coded, and they reconcile to the bank statement deposits. So that all checked out fine. I'm also a certified fraud examiner, and the only reason I mention that is some of the questions we get occasionally are, well, what about the amounts that maybe never make it to the bank statements themselves? Obviously, if you write a check, that's pretty good evidence that that's going to go in there. The actual amounts of currency that are collected are minimal. And again, you can't guarantee that every dollar that somebody gave you, that if there was not a receipt written, would be accounted for. But we have no reason to believe, and this is beyond the scope of the agreed upon procedures that we've done. We believe everything has been accounted for in all material respects on the audit side. And again, notice no discrepancies on the agreed upon procedures that we did. So again, I think that all checked out as you would wish as a town board, to make sure that all the revenues / receipts are accounted for. Secondly, then we looked at the disbursement side. And again, a vast majority of your disbursements are written by check, some electronic for some of the payroll things. But again, our intent here was looking at a variety of disbursements or checks that were written from January 1st through September 9th, looking at focusing on 10 of the largest ones and then 15 random ones that cover a variety of funds and a variety of accounts. So we're looking for supporting documentation, that the invoices or purchase orders and approval documentation was there. And as a result of our 25 that we had sampled, we did find that there were 18 of them that had full supporting documentation. This is an initial look that 18 of them had properly approved invoices and documentation to support those disbursements. So the 25 minus the 18 would be 7 that were missing documentation. But this will be updated because Doug, I believe you had found, was it 3 or 4 more that?
We found 3 more.
3 more. So there are 3 more that were located. And I don't know, have you by chance sent those on to my staff for evaluation? I haven't seen any update from them, but we'll certainly close that loop very quickly and make sure that we update the report for that.
Yeah, I believe I sent it to Dante. I can check, but
okay.
You got an old guy.
So the good news is, yeah, no problem. So the good news is of the 7 that were not found, you actually found 3 more, and actually one of them you didn't find was our audit bill from last year. So we have obviously a validation that we can do on our side that that's the right amount and it's coded in the right amount. So for all practical purposes, the documentation, just a couple of them were missing. But again, probably just a misfiling, things of that nature. Nothing that we can look at to say there was an intentional, destruction of records or anything like that. So nothing there to report. In addition to that, we also looked at 10 more between September and December. Now, during that period of time, the disbursements were obviously a little bit lagging in the preparation as Doug was coming on board and things. But we did also look at 10 of those from September through December and found all the supporting documentation for that. The only comment we have there is that some of them were not paid on a timely basis. There is that 35-day rule in statute. And we understand why, because the position was vacant for longer than that period of time. So it is a temporary item, and I believe in the future that the payments will be made on a timely basis. So nothing to report there as well. Item number 5 just looks at the final paycheck calculation for the former township clerk. We wanted to make sure that the unused vacation time was correctly calculated, and the 163 and a half hours of vacation at the $26 an hour did calculate out, and the net amount of the taxes appeared appropriate. So nothing there that was out of the ordinary. And I guess my only question to the board would be the 163.5 hours is what was, written down as the amount of hours of vacation time. If there was any concern over that particular number of vacation hours that was available, I would entertain, any questions you'd have on that or any further requests to try to validate that a little bit more. Obviously, based on the various accruals minus the amounts that were taken, we could certainly dig into that if you think that number is not what you were expecting. So maybe you can just ponder that for a few minutes as we walk through the rest of the report. Health insurance reimbursements, they were clearly marked as such, and according to our research on the IRS provisions, there is no tax liability as long as it's the reimbursement is communicated in writing. So we believe we've complied with that particular aspect from a taxability and a reimbursement type standpoint. So nothing there that of item to note. Item number 6 just looks at the insurance policies to determine if there was any life insurance on the township clerk that needed to be canceled. We were not able to find any life insurance policies in force for the former township clerk, and that was through our review of the documents and inquiries of both staff and the board. So we don't believe there was any life insurance in force that needed to be canceled through your primary carriers there. So item number 7 just looks at January 1st through December 13th of 2019. If if payments were made for snow removal during the summer months. And our research indicated that there were a couple of small checks coded in May and in June for $110.82 for some snowplow and grader repairs. Off-season type repairs would be our assumption with that. But again, we wanted to clarify that with you, the board, if you had any further concerns over why there were some small amounts coded to snow removal. And again, it was noted it was just snowplow and grader repairs during the spring and summer months there. Secondly, we're looking at some of the patching and pothole repair work. I believe that was coded to the snow removal on July 16th, 2019. So that one, patching and pothole repair work by West Branch Construction. So a couple questions for you there. Number one, does West Branch, are they engaged to indeed do some pothole repair work? And if so, that would likely be more of a road maintenance rather than a snow repair, and classification was probably in the wrong classification. What I will comment on, though, is from our auditor's standpoint, both of those like departments or divisions do get rolled up into one number for the road and bridge, and as a result of that, it wouldn't be specifically identifiable in our audit procedures and the audit reporting that you would see in 2019. But again, I do have some detailed reports that kind of break out to the total of that. There was some grader repair work also, but $475 by Ralph Binnick, and that was coded to snow removal on July 16th. So again, reasonable for that repair work on that equipment to be charged in the summer. It appears so, but again, want to just run it by the board to make sure that you're comfortable with that and that there wasn't any misclassification, if you want to say, on that particular disbursement.
Just to comment on that, that's one of the 7 listed on
number 4, correct. And Doug, you know if that was one of them that you found by chance?
Pardon?
I was going to ask Doug if that was one of the 3 that was found subsequent to when we wrote this report.
No, no, that wasn't one of them.
Okay. So one thought I would have there, we certainly could ask for a duplicate invoice for that if you'd want to research that further to see if indeed it is in the proper classification. That would be the next step to kind of just corroborate it with the vendor. And if that's something you certainly could do, and it'd be relatively easy to do, might be an additional recommendation of mine to kind of close the loop on that one, if you would be willing to do that.
Okay. Yeah, the ones I found were Pass Construction, Laux, and Ziegler.
Ziegler and which other one, Doug? Sorry,
Pass Construction.
Yep, Pass.
And Laux Engineering.
Oh, at the bottom. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I did.
So yeah.
Dante.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I'll follow up with him tonight or tomorrow on that. So, but a very good point that road, the repair work of $475 was one of those that was not locatable. And I think just a prudent conclusion to that, if you're willing, would just be to request a duplicate invoice from that vendor, and then we can update that accordingly.
One more comment about the list of the 3 that are left. Mille Lacs County Ag Society was a donation. They would not have provided an invoice, I wouldn't expect, because it was a donation set up by the Township annual meeting and then approved by the board in the March 2019 meeting.
Okay. Appreciate that comment. Generally, when there's a donation, they do acknowledge it somehow, and it's usually they may not to another local government, but a lot of times they will send thank you for your donation of X dollars. It'll be put for this to this program or whatever. But it is possible that there may not be one available there. Like if you personally donate something like to the United Way or something, they usually give you some type of a receipt. But again, if you feel like as long as you're comfortable that it's been approved at the annual meeting, the township board has approved it. There should be a little, just a minimal risk there that would be inappropriate. So I think that would be fine. So I appreciate the comments too, by the way, on all of these. So thank you. Item number 8, road and gravel maintenance. This one, couple comments here. So we looked at the January through December and compared it to the total to the budgeted amount and looked at the gravel purchases. And this one particular comment or topic, there is a lot of line items, if you want to say, that makes up two buckets or 3 buckets. There's your roads is the one category within the road and bridge fund. There's ice and snow removal, and the third one is road and bridge equipment. And the maintenance disbursements for gravel and road maintenance noted it was significantly less than the budget amounts. And I'm going to actually add this to the final one. The budget was $30,000 for gravel, and the actual amount was $12,597. So we did again look at the largest invoices for West Branch Construction for gravel, and looked at the third one as well from West Branch on November. So the $6,000, the $4,000, and the $2,000 gets us up to the $12,573. So again, we can verify that those 3 invoices were indeed gravel. But the other thing I would just mention is when you kind of look at overall on the road and bridge fund, you have a total budget, and then looking at the 2019 through from the audit file, the actual budgeted expenditure is about $189,425. Your actual expenditures are about $84,754. So there was about $104,000 less expended in the road and bridge fund this year. Just a variety of reasons. The major one was the actual road repair, where you had budgeted $110,000 and it came in at $12,573. That's obviously in the road department within the road and bridge fund. The one comment I would make is there was one fairly significant overage amount from a budget to actual perspective, and that was in the ice and snow removal, where you had repair and maintenance dash contractual with a budget of $3,000. It was actually $35,811.96 that was coded there. So overall, you're well under budget within the road and bridge, but there was that one line item, if you want to say, that was fairly significantly over budget. The agreed upon procedures really didn't focus in on that particular repair and maintenance for ice and snow removal, but my recommendation, if you would like us to kind of close the loop on that, would just to do a little bit deeper analysis of that one particular repair and maintenance line item that was significantly over budget. Unless you as a board feel like you have a good grasp on why that was significantly over budget. So that was the one item that I would recommend potentially some further analysis on, was that ice and snow removal repairs and maintenance line item.
I can answer to that. We have 2 plow trucks, and one the transmission and one the engine went out. And we did not have an alternate way of getting our snow plowing done. So we spent, I believe it was $18,000 on one for engine repair and $17,000 for the other for transmission and rear end.
Perfect.
So they were real items that we knew we ended up spending.
fully validated. They obviously had to go, you had to fix it, so it was just a budget overage, if you want to say, on that line item. You're well within it as a fund itself for the road and bridge, so it's not a concern that the one item is over. Would you like me to incorporate that in the report, just as my analysis? I can add a sentence or two that talks about that, if you'd like me to close the loop on that, or is just a verbal discussion where you'd like to leave it on that one. I'll just leave it up to you.
Dan or Bill, would you like to comment on that?
I guess I would like to have that in the report. There has been some concern on how the money was allocated for repairing them trucks, so to have that in there, I guess that would probably be pertinent. Don't you think, Bill? Or
yeah, I would agree. I think some of the questions were other board members didn't recall having a discussion on spending that amount of money on equipment that was as old as it was.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll add that. I'll actually go circle back into your township minutes too. It should be documented that you would have approved those. And I can just put the date that particular those disbursements were approved. Just make a note here. Go from there. So, okay. I think it's valid to do it as well. It just kind of closes the loop on that whole area that we were looking at. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Number 9. So voided checks. I know there was some discussion about a lot of voided checks. Why was it happening? Were they all technically accounted for? Were there any that were you thought were voided that actually cleared the bank statement? So that would be, one of the risks is that somebody would report a check voided in a particular CTAS system, and then all of a sudden you see it coming to the bank a few months later. Happy to report there was none of those. The checks that were voided were never did clear the bank statement. We were not able to find all of the voided checks, and I'll be honest with you, it's pretty common that it's hard that a lot of our clients, if you ask for a voided check file, they may have some of them, but not all of them. Sometimes it just gets shredded. We do recommend that you maintain them and deface them so they can't be used again. So it's not uncommon that you do not find all of those. But again, we did not locate the check number 12041 to Rep West Branch, but it was voided and it never did clear the bank statement. So we're comfortable that was indeed voided, although it wasn't maintained for our review. It was replaced by 12062, same amount. And again, that one did flow through. So no double payment there, if you want to say. And then in 2019, there was 12601, voided and properly defaced. So we did find that one. And then we also did a sequential number looking of checks to say, are they all accounted for from numbers 1 through 12,000. It was for this period of time. It was obviously not that, but there was no documentation in the check register of check 12415. So naturally, we wanted to say, okay, was that check actually written? Did it clear the bank? And if so, who was it paid to? And why wasn't it recorded? Well, I'm happy to report that it did not clear the bank 2019 bank statements. So the assumption is it was voided or never written. But again, there was no documentation for that. But again, so just a reminder that any voided checks should be maintained or documented as to what happened with those. The last sentence just looks at the check numbers 12414 and 12416. That is just for context to say, well, when was check 12415 written? And both the one prior and after were written on April 16th, 2019. So again, just likely a spoiled check, and but was not found, but it did not clear the bank statement, which again is good news. So And then the final item we looked at, again, was going back a little bit further and looking at the purchase of the tractor that was approved in 2017. I've actually got a little bit of documentation here in front of me that I'm going to pull up to talk through that. So based on our research, we did find that the board did approve the purchase of the tractor and related equipment not to exceed $110,000 at its July 18th, 2017 meeting. Want to have a little bit of discussion prior to that I had a note in our file that, you'll find it here, that it was brought up at the annual meeting in 2016, but actually wasn't approved until July 18th of 2017. So there is a 1-year gap there. And I would just like to inquire if my assumption would be that it was more of a budget issue, that you were going to then allocate funds in the next year to indeed make that disbursement, and because of the size of it. But I wanted to just verify if there was any questions or concerns surrounding that 1-year gap in time between when the discussion took place at the annual meeting and the actual approval of the purchase of it.
The only thing I can answer to that would be that in our March regular open meeting or annual meeting, we are looking at the budget for the following year.
Okay.
So
that was my assumption. I really just wanted to confirm that. So obviously then, go ahead. Sorry.
I think I'm probably the only board member, and I think that's the only town board meeting I missed in about the last 15 years. But I missed an annual meeting, and that may have been. I think that's the one.
Okay. So the approval did come via resolution 2017-6, and you purchased that MF6712 tractor with a brush cutter from the Crawford's Equipment Check via check number 11853. It was purchased on December 19th, 2017 of $75,989, and I do have a copy of the invoice, and it was verified to the bank statement. Looking back at the invoice itself, the retail price of the tractor was $90,662. There was a 27% discount due to the purchasing U.S. Communities joint purchasing venture. 27% discount, so that $90,662 was then written down from an invoice amount to $66,782.93, $66,782.93. Then with which agrees to the invoice that was sent to the township by Crawford's Equipment, and I guess there's a 93-cent difference there, so it was just rounded. But then the actual brush cutter itself, $9,207. And again, that totals the $75,989 that the check was cut, $11,853. So we do also have a sales quote. We also have, which has a $6,356 discount for the actual brush attachment. And so we had a retail price of $15,606 with a $6,356 discount there. So that again appears to be discounted in accordance with the U.S. Communities joint purchasing venture. We then also have and found a email dated July 13th of 2017 asking about the use of bids and quotes for the purchase, and then also an opinion. Just going through this real quick here. An opinion from the Minnesota Association of Townships, and referencing the statute the U.S. Communities Joint Purchasing Venture was an eligible place in a joint venture to actually make that payment in accordance with statute and in accordance with statute 471.345. That was from Kent Solom on July 13th of 2017. And so there is documentation for that, General Counsel of the Minnesota Association of Townships. So based on that information, it does appear that the proper statutes were followed and the process. There is one other item to note, and that is on November 19th, 2018. There was one more check paid, check number 12232 for Crawford's Equipment, $1,219.29, and that was for a blower. The only other question I would have on that is approval and or value of that. Again, it did agree to the invoice amount, and again, since it was a small dollar amount, did not need to go through that whole bid or quote process with through the joint venture. So were you as a board did you have knowledge of that last payment for $1,219.29 for the blower? If we could get confirmation on that, that would just kind of close the loop on that particular one.
There was one other thing, Steve, that was purchased that I'm sure everything's on the up and up, but just to kind of satisfy everybody, was purchase of the Tiger Corporation, the boom mower. It was purchased about that same time, check number 11854 for $26,835.
Can you repeat that dollar amount one more time, please?
$26,835.
Okay, perfect.
Did you get the check number? You got that? Okay.
Yep, 11854. So that was right after. Yeah, it's the next check after the purchase of the tractor itself. So okay,
correct. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. We probably, Doug, if I could ask, we should probably get a copy of that invoice. I don't believe we have that. Would like to just verify that as well.
Did you move on that, Bill?
Did you repeat that, Doug?
The invoice. When was that paid?
It was paid 12/19/2017, and it was the vendor was Tiger Corporation.
Tiger. And the amount?
$26,835.
Okay. Excellent. So with that, I'll be happy to open it up for questions. My goal tonight was to walk through that and actually get guidance from the board if there's some further steps that you would like us to do just to close the loop on anything that maybe still is not to your level of satisfaction, if you want to say, regarding some of the results that we found with this agreed upon procedures. Like the Tiger Corporation would be one. We'll update the disbursements with missing documentation, adding a little bit more narrative on the budget, the overage for the ice and snow, those types of things. So with that, I'd be happy to pause and just ask if there's some further comments you have, requests, so we can make sure we cover any other open items that we maybe didn't address tonight.
We covered this in our discussion, Stephen, but we have the interest from the CD to add in to bring the accounts into balance as of December 31. And I'll be doing that. I haven't done it yet, but I need to get together with the CTAS support to make sure I get that done right. But we'll get that in on 31.
Okay.
That I believe was just taken off the statement. There's a single statement for the year, and I believe that's where they just took it off right off that statement. So $5,000 amount.
Yeah, correct. And a little bit of background on that for the board. So at the end of every audit year, obviously we will get the balances of your cash accounts and also your investment account. And there was some accrued interest for a year or two that we inquired of Connie if we should be adjusting that to the market value, and it was not a material amount, so it didn't really affect the audit opinion. So we just it was a little bit lower than it would have been. We decided this year to get it right up to the market value. So this year, kind of got a little extra bump for a little bit more interest in 2019. Obviously, the rates are better as well, and so that gap got a little bit bigger this year. So we just decided to true it up instead of being like a year, half a year behind or something. So that's why there was a little bit more of a jump in that particular investment balance, and we'll continue to do that in the future, just to add that interest income to the CTAS, and that obviously gets reported in the audited numbers and the cash investment numbers. So it wasn't wrong; it just was kind of that accrued amount that kind of came in shortly after the year end or right at year end that didn't get booked into CTAS just due to the times. So. Again, something hopefully you can work with the CTAS folks to get that added, so we're reconciled.
Can we go back to item number 5 where we talked about the past clerk's calculated hours of paid vacation?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something? I mean, that's a pretty good number there, 163 and a half hours. Is that, do we have to look at that to make sure that was actually approved on? I'm sorry, this is my first time ever doing anything like this, so I'm as green as green gets. So
yeah, no, it's a good question, because here's the questions I would have as I look at. And number one, is 163 and a half hours a reasonable vacation balance for someone to have to be paid out at the end of their employment? There are, again, a lot of policies that say you can have a certain amount of vacation carried over. It can be, sometimes it's unlimited, sometimes it's like once or twice the amount that you earn in a year, every year, that kind of thing. So to me, the calculation itself is correct if the assumption that the 163 and a half hours should have been paid out. So I think that probably the biggest question on the discussion point is that the right number? It is the number that was written down on the calculation, but is that the true number that should have been paid out based on the amounts that were earned, the amounts that were taken off? The earned amounts you can calculate very easily. The real question is if you take a day off and don't record it, that number then continues to creep up if you do take time off but don't record your vacation. So if you think there is a potential risk that there is some unrecorded vacation, we could look at some payroll records to determine if that 163.5 is actually a solid number. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying as a next step, you could try to do that calculation of what was earned and what was taken just based on the payroll records that you should have on hand. So
she was gone before I was elected, so I guess I'll pass that to either Gene or Bill. And I mean, you guys were on the board, so you guys put your input on that one.
This is Gene. My input on that is that we were giving her a fairly high number of hours of vacation. We were never limiting, or we were never saying that we would only pay out certain amounts. So I'm sure if she kept record and she said 163 and a half, I don't think we have a dispute with that, because she was one that kept record, and we had no limitations. We had just offered her or given her this many hours per month or per year, and it was her calculation. So I don't have issue with it.
And again, I have no reason to believe that it's wrong. It would just be that one question is do you want to go that extra step and validate it? And it sounds from the board members that with longevity that they feel it's correct. So based on that, you can kind of make your decision if you want to do any further work on that. So
If Gene's comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it. So
okay.
Yeah,
Certainly not unreasonable. We see some have, like 500 hours and 300 hours, so 160. It's 4 weeks roughly. So
I think we were being quite generous in vacation time and holiday time, just with the idea that we wanted to maintain continuity in the office.
okay.
I have no issue with it.
Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it.
The only other comment I would have is be on number 7, and I've always contended that I don't believe there's anything been wrong with our checkbook balance or whatever. The only thing has been the way things have been coded, and I've maintained all along that we're not going to find any discrepancies. They said that at the annual meeting. I said it in November, March, April, May meetings. It's just a matter of the coding, as far as I'm concerned.
So specifically, would you think that $475 grader repair work, that invoice that was missing, would that be an item of interest from a coding standpoint as well?
Yes, because I'm sure it was the summer road grader. It would not have been snow removal.
Okay. And the interesting part is there's really no large incentive to code it to one or the other, because it all gets rolled into the same line item from the audit perspective. But again, we'd be happy to take a look at that invoice and at least confirm that would be a summer repair versus a winter repair. And because I would think that if you're doing repairs when there's snow on the ground, you could obviously argue a winter repair. But if the majority of the expenditures or disbursements are in July, it would seem to me like if it was winter related, that would have been fixed by July at least. But we certainly can take a look at that and comment on that as well.
So now that I'm looking at it closer, Bill, maybe you can answer to this. Could that have been the MnDOT or getting the single tandem axle up to date?
Let me look here. I'm trying to find the check number. 12524.
Was coded snow removal on July 16th, 2019. That may have been plow truck number 1.
No, I think this was actual grader repair. This was repair on the grader.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that name would be for who DOT'd the truck number 2 or the single axle truck.
Well, this is Ralph. This is heavy repair, grader repair. So this was. It looks from what I'm seeing, it's grader repair. It was put on.
That's what my first inclination was.
I mean, there was quite a bit of wages and stuff put under ice and snow removal in the middle of the summer and vice versa. There was summer work being coded for stuff that was being done in the middle of the winter also.
And all that really did was complicate the budgeting a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
Matter of budget.
Right.
Bill, would that with the 475, would that just be the hourly rate to that Ralph heavy repair there? Since we also wrote a check to Ziegler Cat, did we just buy our parts from Ziegler and have somebody else do the work on it? Or, I mean, would that maybe, I don't know if that would help at all or not, if seeing what we actually purchased from Ziegler, just parts, and then we paid them to fix it, or kind of follow along with me?
I guess I couldn't tell you. Like I said, I
I'm speculating on that.
on board when all this happened.
Yeah, I'm speculating that that's most likely what it is. We bought our parts from Ziegler and then paid somebody to install them, but I could be wrong on that.
I'm a little stumped on that one because that was shortly before we went to Haas for.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that was in July. Yeah, that's odd. January, March.
I think it was later in the year last year when you guys had talked about bringing the truck up to get it brought up to DOT specs. I think that wasn't until October, Gene. I could be wrong. I think it was later in the year because I don't believe Dahlheimer actually had the contract yet when we decided to send that truck in to get it brought up to DOT specs. Maybe we
and I don't have I only have information going to June of 19, so this is after any information I would have. So I don't really know what that's for. It can't be the grader because the grader was. I can't say. I don't know. I just don't know.
I think if we could get a copy of that invoice for $475, that would be prudent just to close the loop on that one. And if there is some further disbursements later on in the year, we could certainly circle back in the detail on that as well if desired.
Yeah, I think we'll have to pursue Ralph Biniak to get that. I agree. We need to see that. And I'm sure it's legitimate, but just so we can categorize or code what it was, it'd be nice to get the invoice from him.
Yeah.
Do we have any other comments?
I do think. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I wasn't sure how far we were going with this. I just wanted to get clarification on that last statement at the bottom of this on page 3 about this report is intended solely. Could you kind of clarify what that, kind of define that a little better for us so we know this is for the board only? We should be making copies of this and giving this to people. Basically,
yeah. This it's kind of a standard level of a restriction on this type of report. It's based on our standards when we issue these. So obviously this is in preliminary form at this point, so it is subject to revision and there'll be a few things, but it's really designed for you as a board, but technically once you accept it, it would be part of a limited distribution, if you want to say, but the intent is you as a board requested some certain deeper information on certain processes and transactions. This is not meant to be a public filing to satisfy any particular requirements for the state auditor or anything like that. Is really just that more detailed specified report, if you want to say, as you requested. So it's a limited scope, I guess, of distribution is how I would point it. But obviously, if that's something, once it's finalized and you accept it, you technically could release that. It's based on just the legal nature of things that a township would accept, in the normal course of business. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, thank you.
One more question on line item or number 8, where we're talking about gravel disbursements and stuff. That was brought up at a couple meetings about with budgeting, X amount of dollars for gravel repair and finding gravel and other categories, Gene, Bill, are you guys happy with that? Do you want them to look a little further into that to make sure everything was kosher there? Or what are your guys' thoughts and opinions on that whole line item?
Well, this one specifically is 2019, so the issues weren't in 19. It was beyond that. It was back 16, 17, 18, 15. So there was not a lot of money spent on gravel. Just that was at the point where we were trying to get a handle on what actually was being spent on gravel. And so I was pretty hesitant on spending until I knew what had been done in the past.
Sure.
And by the time I had that figured out, summer was over.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we did have them look at the tractor purchased back in 2017. Do you guys think it's pertinent for them to look at, 18 or 17 in the gravel, or this is all before I'm on the board. So you two are there for, I believe Gene was, but I'm not sure when you joined, but
I wasn't. Yeah. I was just going off of what I was finding from our CTAS reports versus what was shown in the budgets. The budget was showing that we spent $10,000 when our receipts were showing $36,000, and it was just the money was being, as Steve said, it all rolls up into the same road and bridge budget, but the public was being told, okay, we're paying $10,000 on gravel, and we're actually spending $60,000 on gravel, and we were being told that, we were spending $60,000 on road repair when we were only spending $3,000 on road repair, paved roads, or type of thing. So it was just causing confusion for public. They're coming to a meeting, or we're trying to set budgets, and
sure,
it was just confusing. So I think I've got it straightened out. I don't think there's any money missing. It was just
inconsistency.
Make budgeting very difficult.
Sure. No, I copy on that. I wasn't sure what your guys' thoughts were on that. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great question and a good answer, and a great answer as well. And it's really the inconsistency and the detailed budgeting line items that you see within CTAS. And I think just a little deeper dive and a little deeper understanding as to what goes in each account, so that Doug knows when he sees a bill that it goes in this line item. Or if you don't know, ask the question, get the consensus from the board, and then as a result, you can get that all aligned where it needs to be, instead of just assuming. I don't think there's any intent of intentionally manipulating, numbers here and there, because like Bill said and I said, it just all rolls up the same number anyways. But just a little more precision, I think, would be helpful on that budgeting process as well in the road and bridge and general fund. I think general fund's a little bit easier. There's a lot less discretion or choices you need to make for certain disbursements out of there. But road and bridge, may have some of those that cross categories a little bit. So
okay.
I would have a response that if there were any questions of previous years, West Branch Construction has kept very good records from, and I think Bill can attest to that. And that's where he found some of the discrepancies in the reporting, was that West Branch keeps a very accurate record of where they put gravel and how much they put, how many dollars worth.
Yeah, I can attest to that. In fact, that's where I actually went to that vendor to get all the PDFs. They sent me everything back to 15, so they were very helpful.
Good.
So, Bill, can I ask a follow-up question? So, based on that information from them, you're comfortable that all of it is accounted for, maybe not necessarily in the proper line item, but in total, what you say you paid is what it has been accounted for in the CTAS records. Would that be a fair statement?
I'm not an accountant, but I would say that everything is accounted for, yes.
Okay, great.
Is there anything else?
And you might actually want to be one. No. Probably not.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, there was just a comment to Bill that digging in further and further, he's learning a lot of the accounting rules is kind of what I was inferring. So, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns?
Steve, I just wanted to follow up on some maybe how can I word this? How this is viewed. There may be people in the community who view this as a like we were looking for trouble, and this is a standard practice, and it's not wrong to question, and it's not wrong to look into this. We're talking public funds, so just maybe give me a kind of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. In my opinion, and it's very, very common that when there's a change in the clerk treasurer position, it is, I think, the board's duty to consider having kind of a final, audit, if you want to say. This isn't technically the audit, but it's a review of the information to make sure that everything is accounted for. And we do see that very routinely, that when there is a change in that position, it's best for the person that's leaving as well as the person that's coming in to make sure things are in order. You fulfilled your fiduciary duty as a board. Say, we do want you to look at it. We want to make sure that we're at a good starting point under Doug's tenure, and that there's nothing, missing from Connie's tenure. So I think it was a very prudent decision to make, and certainly something that will make the public feel more comfortable that things have been looked at, things are have been accounted for, some budget things, maybe here and there, different line items and things, but overall is accounted for, etc. So hope that kind of answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, now, if I can understand this right, you could give us a follow-up letter to this, basically pony repairs and listing what went Tiger Corporation and then maybe a follow-up on Ralph Biniak heavy repair. I believe those were the three items that we maybe need some clarification on or whatever.
Yep, that's correct. That is my understanding, that those items I would follow up on a final version of this document, and then we can conclude this review or engage disagreed upon procedures analysis. Correct.
So would appropriate action for us right now would be to move to approve applying agreed upon procedures with note repairs, the Ralph Biniak check and the Tiger Corporation check.
Yes, I think that would, from this estate, from my perspective, that would be an appropriate conclusion, just to accept the revised report with the addition of those items.
I would move that motion.
That was Mr. Whitcomb.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Gene, before I second it, can I get clarification? Were we also going to look at the plow truck repairs? Yeah, I heard some squeaking there, so I didn't quite hear everything. Or were we happy with that portion? What were the three portions that we wanted them to look at?
Oh, the note repairs on the plow trucks, the Tiger Corporation check for $26,000, and Ralph Biniak repair bill.
Yeah, that $475.
Dan, and Dan, you are correct. I would like to withdraw my motion because we did talk about looking into board approval of the $35,000 in plow truck repairs. I wasn't on the board at the time, but other board members were not remembering that being brought before them to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, I
don't believe it ever was board action.
I'm sorry, Gene. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm sorry. I do not believe that it was ever a board action. I think we were up against it, and it was felt that we had to go forward without going through the board.
Is that legal?
I was not part of that decision. I never heard about it until the invoices came in.
But that encompasses two invoices, right? One for 18 and one for 17,000.
I believe so.
One was for about almost 18, and the other was for 9 or 8,000, something like that.
I thought they totaled 35.
Oh, hang on. I might have said it. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it here.
At 35,812 was the total in that line item. Now there may be something else in there for but the transmission and engine was the discussion that I had written on that one.
It was 17 for the Sterling engine and almost 8 for the clutch. Then there was some others. Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's another Ralph Bienick heavy repair. If you look at everything from that was done, it was $28,009.71, and that was 1, 2. Now I can give you the check numbers if you want them.
Sure.
It was check number 12350 for $410.82. Check number 12351 for clutch transmission repair for $7,992.81. Check number to Ralph Bienick, check number 12373 for $1,705. Another check to Central Fleet for 12377 for $433.22. Manny International, check number 12381 for $17,117.86. And then there was a tow, looks like, for Collins Brothers. I don't know, it's a tow for $350. I don't know if that was part of it or not, but
Okay.
Okay,
Check
Joey,
number on
you
Collins?
excuse me?
Check number on Collins by chance, Bill?
Oh, that was 12398.
Thank you.
Bill, you just outpaced me there, so I'll trust you to email me that.
Okay.
So none of those exceeded, like the $25,000 threshold where you have to get any kind of a, quote or anything on that. Obviously, since it's a repair type item, when you say is it legal? First of all, I'm not a lawyer, but none of that hit that threshold. Just so you know that. The bigger question is, did it really get approved at some level to some degree by the board, whether it's just a routine listing of checks that were presented for review and approval, or a specific discussion and a resolution or approval on that. That we would need to do a little bit more digging on.
I don't believe anything was done before we saw the final approval on the checks.
That would have been the first week that I was on the board that would have come through. So the work was done in, February, early March, maybe.
Okay. So we could certainly add that to the report. We could get copies of those invoices and just verify those if you'd like. We could look back in the minutes and just document what level of approval it was, if it was specific or just a. And I don't recall. Do you just when you on a monthly basis, do you just approve checks like check numbers 1,000 through 1,100, or do you actually go line by line, check by check when you approve those?
We have a list of checks that are going to be written or that were already written. We approve payment of checks. We're doing it a little bit differently now. We're a little bit more in depth, and now we're seeing the monthly balance and money that comes in and money that goes out in both in employee costs and other vendors. But at that time, we would just get a list of checks that were being drawn.
Okay. So from that perspective, there's
Actually, the approvals are in the form of a claim, and then the checks are written off the claims. But the claims list is what the board sees.
okay. So technically, it was approved through the claims list. All of it was under that $25,000 threshold, so there would not need to be any bid or quote requirements. So, in a roundabout way, you're asking, was it legal and was it approved? On first blush, it does look like it obviously was approved at the claims level and didn't violate any bid or quote statute or whatever. If that just helps quantify the transaction. So.
Well, I think the question comes in. Yeah, I mean, is would the board deny a claim once the work's already done and the bill's been submitted? That's kind of where we're caught on this one, I think.
Sure, kind of that emergency need to get equipment back up and running.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how that works. I mean, if we've got plow trucks and it's the winter time and it breaks down 3 weeks before our next meeting, how does that work? Do we have to wait until we have a meeting to say, okay, we got to fix it, or just clarification on my end? I guess I'm not parts.
Yeah, common sense would say no. You could do that. It might be a question for your legal counsel if you think it worthy to research. They could tell you pretty quickly, I would think. Got to be some emergency exceptions for things such as that, but there's got to be some statutory authority surrounding it too, which they would have the expertise to tell you.
Hey.
So that was the only addition to the to the motion, I guess.
Okay.
The motion, as I understood, was to basically accept the revised findings with the add-on of the truck repairs, Tiger Corporation, and Biniac repairs. That was the motion. You withdrew it before it became property of the board. Do you wish to remake that motion, or?
I would make that a motion with the addition of looking into that the money that was spent, just to see if we've got minutes anywhere that approved those repairs. Just to kind of put a bow on that one.
Okay.
The motion has been made to accept with revisions the preliminary or the findings of the agreed upon procedures with the further follow up of truck repairs, Tiger Corporation, and Biniac repairs. Is there a second?
Dan Hiller, I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Mr. Whitcomb, second by Mr. Hiller. Is there any further discussion? Any further questions?
And then just on the board side, is somebody going to check with the attorney to make sure that if there is any kind of emergency statute that says they don't have to wait until the next board meeting, they can go ahead and get a truck fixed, or do we want to contact Matt or Jason to find out if there was something that they were able to do there legally to make sure that was done properly?
Yeah, I believe we should probably follow up with Jason to find out where we go forward. Of course, now we're doing things differently. We're contracting it out, so that hopefully it never comes up on our issue again.
The only question I have on that, and like I say, I'm learning this stuff too, Gene. So, do we want to contact Jason where we're paying for him, or do we want to contact Matt where isn't Matt attorney or legal advice free? I don't.
It is.
I'm learning this stuff.
I can get a hold of Mr. Fensky and get that answer.
All right.
From MAT,
Perfect.
yes, I will do that. Any other questions, concerns, discussions? Motion has been made and seconded to accept the preliminary report, or the report based with the addition of look into truck repairs, Tiger Corporation's check, and the Biniac repairs. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. Mr. Hiller?
Aye.
Mr. Whitcomb?
Aye.
And Mr. Stokel votes aye. Mr. Wishman, is there anything else that needs to be done at this meeting?
No, sir. I think we're complete. I appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Dan Hiller.
Motion made by Mr. Hiller.
Seconded by Phil.
Mr. Whitcomb seconds. Roll call vote. Mr. Hiller?
Aye.
Mr. Stokel's aye. Mr. Whitcomb? Motion's carried. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Nice.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Good night. Thank you.